In this video, you're going to learn how to read chord symbols. Now, it may take us a couple of videos to do this because there's a couple of things you need to understand in order to actually play chord symbols. There's the understanding part and then there's the playing part. Getting those two things to work together is the whole point of jazz, being able to improvise and interpret chord symbols. We got this question from Michael Ryan, who says he can certainly read music, but just having chord notation, C13 flat 9, wow, where to go from here? Well, that's what this video is all about. If you do not know how to read chord symbols, but you can read music, then this video will be infinitely useful to you pretty much forever, because this is the system you'll need. The good news about this video and the one that's following, and maybe one after that, is we're going to apply those chord symbols to a specific song. In this case, "Oh Christmas Tree." And if you're not familiar with the jazz version of that, played by Vince Guaraldi, it's from Charlie Brown's Christmas, one of my favorite Christmas specials of all time. The whole music track was jazz. And if you want to be able to play like that, then initially you're going to need to learn how to read chord symbols. So let's get started right now. I'm going to play the tune for you in just a moment. Here's a sample, just a quick sample of what you're going to hear when you get to the end of this video. And basically we're applying all of that knowledge of how to get to that point into reading chord symbols and being able to interpret them. Let me play a little bit right now and we'll come back and get started. Okay, so what you just heard was an interpretation of chord symbols. Now, if you look at the sheet music, we have two things. We have the chord symbol and we have the interpretation of that chord symbol below in notes. So essentially the goal is to be able to play jazz. And there is essentially two things you need to know. The first one is, how do you read a chord symbol? And essentially there is a formula for that. And I'm going to show that to you in this video. And then there's the interpretation. So chord symbol plus interpret or interpretation equals jazz. The interpretation part is what we call the voicing. How do you actually voice that chord, give it a voice using multiple keys on the piano? So how do we do this? Okay, well, the first thing you're going to need to know is how to actually read a chord symbol. And because chord symbols come right out of the scale, we're going to use our F major scale because that's the key of the tune, "Oh Christmas Tree." So let's write out our scale. So we got F, G, A, B, C, D, E, and back to F. Each one of those notes is the root of a chord. Like this: F, G, A, B, C, D, and E. Each of those letters represents the root of the chord. Whenever you see the letter first, that means that the root of the chord is that letter: F, G, A, B, C, D, and E. Now, it also means in jazz that it's a chord. In this case, triads in tertian harmony. Just go up in thirds and following the scale without any accidentals. That's what creates your chords. Triads. So again, those chords are separated by thirds. That's a third. Here's another third. Thirds. And that is B flat because it's in the key. So remember, whatever the root of the triad is, that's what the first thing in a chord symbol is. It's the letter. So C, D, and this is minor, and this is minor. So where does that come from? So the second thing you'll see in a chord symbol is if it's major or minor. If it's major, you do not need anything next to the letter. If it's minor, you need to denote that. But because we're in the key of F, we look at each of these triads and we can tell this is an F major triad. Why? Because it contains a major third, then a minor third. This is a minor triad because it has a minor third and a major third. This is a minor chord because it has a minor third and a major third. This is a major chord because it has a major third and then a minor third. This is a major chord because it has a major third and then a minor third. And then the next one is minor because it has a minor third, then a major third. And the final one is a diminished chord because it contains two minor thirds and then another minor third. And that's essentially how to read triad chord symbols. But then you look at the tune itself and you'll see that there are different numbers that comes after the minor or major. So for example, in the first case, there is no minor here, there's nothing here, there's a minor here, a minor here, minor here. This is diminished, we'll get to that in a moment. But essentially, there's the chord itself, the root of the chord, and then a number. Okay, so if it's minor chord, it's the letter, the symbol, which is minor or major, no symbol, and then the next thing is a number. What is that number and what does it mean? That's what we're going to get to in our next video, because eventually what you want to be able to do is interpret those chord symbols. Now that's the way it's written, but if you were to interpret it differently, you could play it like this. Those are different voicings for the same chord symbols. So that's where the interpretation part comes in. So in our next video, we're going to learn what the number is following the initial letter and whether it's major or minor. Let me play the tune "Oh Christmas Tree" for you now. I'm going to play it through in its entirety, and this is an interpretation of the chord symbols. I hope you enjoy this, and remember to stick around for our next video. Thanks for your time.